What's going on, everybody? What's happening? Welcome back to the bullshit. Welcome back to the nonsense. Hopefully y'all are doing well out there. I'm just chilling here thinking about my money, thinking about the money that I don't make like I used to make anymore. And I was thinking about deregulation. So let's talk about deregulation in the trucking industry. So prior to 1980, the average wage for a truck driver was around $40,000 a year, right? Now, if you take that to today with inflation and all that, cost of living, that'd be the equivalent to like $180,000 to $200,000 a year. Now, wouldn't that be nice, huh? Wouldn't that make this job a lot better? So what do y'all think about this? Was deregulation a good thing or a bad thing, or where are we at with this? In 1980, Jimmy Carter passed the Motor Carrier Act to deregulate trucking. Because prior to that, you ever hear on the old country songs, the ICC be coming on down the line, right? That stands for the Internal Commerce Commission, I think. And they basically, it's a government regulating the trucking industry. And they controlled pretty much everything. They controlled the routes you took, like the highways you used, you know, the rates. The trucking rates were fixed rates. They couldn't be negotiated. The cargo that you hauled, you know, if you had whether you could even become a trucking company or not, you know, they would not give you necessarily the authority. And then it limited the amount of companies that were in the industry. And even the companies that were in it, they only had like certain areas, you know, like you had the Northeast or the Southwest or the Southeast or the Midwest, and you could only run in that area. It was pretty strictly regulated, you know. Well, that all seems like a bunch of nonsense to me, right? Who needs more government bullshit in our lives, right? So that part seems all right, getting rid of all that. But the problem is prior to deregulation, the truckers, you know, they had consistent work schedules. They made good money, obviously, mostly union jobs. Not a huge fan of unions, but I get it. You know, job security, you didn't have to worry about shit. You had like health insurance, retirement plans, all that stuff, right? All that stuff that we don't have. They say we have health insurance now, but you ever look into your health insurance? It's like major medical, and then they'll start to cover shit after you spend $5,000. You know, it's not very good health insurance, and then they charge you what, like $450 a month for it or some shit. It's a joke. It's a joke, my friends. But so you had all that. That was a good thing, right? But then it also, you know, the regulations gave the truckers like not any freedom or flexibility or anything like that. You're, you know, pretty much being micromanaged. But the lack of competition and shit, you know, the companies didn't really see any reason to like buy better equipment or upgrade their services or do things better, because either you had the authority to haul or you didn't have the authority to haul, right? So who cares? If you had the authority, you're like, hey, I'm in, man. I'm with the cool kids. I don't gotta worry about competing, right? And then with the no competition, then obviously the prices became high, because you could pretty much just call your prices because you were in, right? So then once they did the deregulation, it allowed the trucking companies, you know, more freedom to do things their way, you know, shit like that. More efficient, better services, cheaper rates, shit like that. They could negotiate rates that would suit them and suit the shippers, and so on, right? Became like easier for other people to get their authority. There was like an influx of people getting their authority and all that, which increased the competition, which drove down the rates. But also at the same time, in driving down the rates, then, you know, you'd have to entice people a little bit more to come work for you versus working for this other guy. So you might buy better equipment or have better benefits or not treat them like a complete douchebag, you know, shit like that, right? So then, yeah, once all that happened, then the shipping costs got lower, so the prices of the goods to the consumers and all that got lower. So, all right, you know, maybe that's kind of good. But then you flip around again. The unions pretty much dissolved. I don't know of too many trucking companies that are even union anymore, right? Amazon's kind of working in that direction, I'm hearing. Right now, Amazon would be a horrible place to be a truck driver. But potentially, let's say they go union and stuff, who knows, maybe 10 years from now or something, Amazon might be the shit, you know? It might be like the old days. You kind of wanted to work at UPS before UPS started doing their whole, we won't hire you full time to ever make you a union bullshit, you know, that they did. And then we all seen what happened with FedEx, right? Remember, if you haven't been around, FedEx used to be a pretty good company. Now, they're not. So you had like all that going on, which without the unions, then, you know, you weren't really making as much money, so you end up taking more loads, working longer hours, staying on the road more often, dealing with worse, you know, work conditions and shit like that. And then the companies were looking at ways to compete with the other companies. So what do? They go right after the driver wages, right? So that lowers the wages down even more. Really, in the end, in my opinion, the truck drivers basically just lost all of it, right? And then the trucking companies obviously got rich. I mean, you take Swift and Werner and, you know, Schneider and so on and so on and so on, right? I think they got rich, don't you think? They got quite a few trucks and all that stuff going on, right? Well, then the shippers, they saved money, so they got rich. And then the big business people who own the corporations and the consumer, you know, shopping centers and all that, they can get it cheaper, so then they can make more money too, right? Us small people are always making the rich people richer. But I don't know what to think about the whole thing myself. I think we're having a turning point right now, in my opinion. Finally, after all this new regulation that's gone down that we talked about in a couple videos ago, there's obviously some big changes going down, you know. Whether or not it'll stay this way and all that stuff, who knows? Or what will be the next bad bullshit thing around the corner? Who knows? But we're definitely seeing some positive changes from what it was 2-3 years ago, for sure, because the bottom fell out. And that kind of makes me wonder a little bit, right? Because, like, when they started the deregulation, people said that that was pretty much the crash or the collapse of the trucking industry. Now, that wasn't necessarily true, because throughout the 80s and well into the 90s, trucking still paid. I mean, my uncles and my stepdad and all that, they were making money trucking. I mean, fuck. Only, what, 4 or 5 years ago? Less than that, maybe? I was making money. I was making like 100 grand, you know, 110 grand and shit, right? So it didn't just drop right off and completely collapse. It just got worse. Well, then the whole kicker was letting all the foreigners and stuff in. Come on, we know that one, because that put too much competition, and they were working at way too low rates, and that just ran the whole shit show. But we've talked about that tons of times, and we all know what's going on there, right? Well, that seems to be ending, you know, so that's going to change some stuff. But I wonder to myself, if it did start on that decline back in the 80s, right? Was this the crash over the last few years? Because it definitely crashed, right? No doubt about it. Could be, right? With all the regulations like we talked about that are intact, the fact that a lot of people don't want to do this job no more. Well, for one, it's not that easy anymore, man. I see these signs that are like, get your CDL in 4 weeks. 4 weeks? Holy crap, you gotta go in there like every day for like 8 hours for 4 weeks and do all this nonsense? Jeez, it took me like 4 hours to get mine. And I don't know if a lot of people want to do that. Then you gotta pay for it and get financing and all that to do it. And then the younger generation is just not into this kind of work. And then you're seeing the real truth us YouTubers are putting out there of like, hey, you know what? This job fucking sucks, you know? Like, I'm sitting here right now in my truck, just chilling. I could be at home, right? and all kinds of other stuff that goes with it. So you get my point, man. There's not an influx of the new generation thinking that they want to come do this job. They want to do like computers and AI and tech and all that stuff. So I don't know, man. What do y'all think? The rebirth or the death? Is it over? Or are we all screwed? Anyway, we'll see what happens. That's just my thoughts on that. As always, appreciate you guys watching. Catch you on the next one.
No one left to hold.